Good day, everyone. By the way, I am Joylyn T. Ogan, together with my partner, Kimberly Berhes. And today, we are the reporter for Module 25, which is entitled Assessment Strategies That Can Increase Motivation. So since I am the first presenter, I will be the one to present first. Okay, for the objective, in this module, challenge yourself to attain the following learning outcomes. So first is cite ways to make assessment more motivating for students. And next one is demonstrate appreciation of assessment as a process to evaluate and facilitate learning. So for the introduction, as an indispensable part of the teaching learning process is assessment. It usually at the end of a lesson plan, term evaluation. A lesson plan is not complete without an assessment. The instructional cycle indeed is not complete without also an assessment. So assessment is at the service of learning, thus the phrase assessment for learning. Assessment is meant to ensure that learning takes place. This is possible only when the assessment process motivates students to learn. Unfortunately, in many instances, assessment as a process does not motivate, instead threatens. How can we make assessment a motivating and a facilitating experience is the concern of this module. So, advanced organizer. So, assessment strategies that can increase motivation. Growth mindset. Test challenging, not too easy, not too difficult. Sensitive and constructive assessment. True purpose of assessment. Focus on progress rather than failure. Clear objective as basis of assessment. Self-assessment and criterion reference. So, these are the assessment strategies that can increase motivation. So, the first one is make clear your learners' objectives every time. Second, make your students own the lesson objective. The third, engage your students in self-assessment. Fourth, practice criterion reference assessment rather than norm reference assessment. And the last one is assessment is certainly based on established criterion, your learning target or objective. Okay, how can we make assessment a palatable menu for our students? Experiences in classroom assessment and principles of assessment tell us the following. Okay, for number 1, make clear your learners' objectives every time. So it is good if students are clarified on the objectives they are working on and the criteria that will be used in evaluating their learning. So it is preferable if students are clear on the objectives they are working on, as well as the criteria that will be used to assess their learning. So why is it important for students to know the objectives? So learning objectives, also known as learning outcomes, are essential for effective learning. They help to articulate what students should be able to do as a result of the instruction and consequently aid in designing more effective instruction planning, activities, and assessments. So second is make your students own the lesson objective. So allow them to set their own personal learning targets based on the lesson objective. Initially, their personal target may be lower than the learning target set for the class, but with the expectation that they will gradually bring them up according to their pace until their personal target coincide with the class target. This will make them feel unthreatened and comfortable. So allow them to establish their own personal learning goals based on the lesson objective. Their personal target may be lower than the learning target set for the class at first, with expectation that they will gradually raise in it to coincide with the class target as they progress. This will make them feel less unthreatened and more at ease. So third is engage your students in self-assessment. They have established their own targets against clearly set lesson objectives. They are in the best position to determine if they have met their own targets and the class target or objective. When learners are given the opportunity to evaluate their own performance, they bring to mind the personal task and strategy variables applicable to them. They reflect on their personal characteristics that can affect their learning, the tasks they need to work on, and the strategies that can help them. In this way, assessment empowers the students to take a more active role in their own learning process. So they have set their own goals in relation to clearly define a lesson objectives. So they are in the best position to determine whether they have met their own goals as well as the goals of the class. So next is practice criterion reference assessment rather than norm reference assessment. So make your students compare their performance against established criterion. The learning objectives or target and not against other students' performance. Comparing a student's performance with the latter makes assessment threatening. So make your students compare their own performance to a predefined criterion such as the learning objectives or target, rather than to the performance of other students. Because when a student's performance is compared to that of the latter, assessment becomes dangerous. So what is the difference between the two? When we say criterion reference, test measures performance on specific concepts and are often used in a pre-test or post-test format. And also, when we say norm reference, tests may measure the acquisition of skills and knowledge for or from multiple sources such as notes, texts, and syllabus. So next one is assessment is certainly based on established criterion, your learning target or objective. So it has been observed, however, that a number of teachers set learning objectives but assess another. This leads to students' confusion and discouragement. So, however, it has been observed that some teachers set learning objectives but assess another. So, as a result of this, the students are perplexed and discouraged. So, for the next slide, will be discussed by Kimberly Berhes.
Good day, everyone. I am Kimberly P. Berhes, and I will continue our report for today, which is the assessment strategies that can increase motivation. Have a growth mindset. Your assessment practice must be sensitive and constructive. Inspire your student to have mastery focus rather than performance focus. Don't make the test too difficult to discourage students, nor too easy to make them complacent. Communicate result and feedback. Have a growth mindset. So believes that your students can improve. Failure or wrong answer is welcome. Assure your students that they are not made less of themselves by wrong answers or mistakes. The most important is they learn from their mistake and continuously grow and improve. So dito as a teacher, you have to believe that your students can improve. Hindi yung kapag nagkamali yung iyong estudyante ay ipapahiya mo siya sa harap ng kanyang kaklase. So dapat kung may mali man yung estudyante mo or mali yung sinagot niya, kailangan ikaw na isang guro, kailangan mo siyang i-correct or turuan mo upang matuto ang iyong estudyante. So by that, they will learn from their mistakes and continuously grow and improve. Next is your assessment practice must be sensitive and constructive because assessment has an emotional impact. So bear in your mind that your comments, marks, and grades as well as the manners you communicate to the students can affect their self-confidence. Assessment should be constructive as much as possible. So judging students harshly to the point that they feel belittled or insulted will kill their spirit and may lead them to have a negative view both of themselves and the subject. So as a future teacher, we have to be careful in giving comments, marks, and grades, as well as the way we treat our students or the way we communicate our student, especially when we teach elementary kasi yung mind ng mga bata is hindi pa masyadong nade-develop. So, sensitive pa sila kapag sila ay napapagalitan, napapahiya, o naapektuhan sila kapag may nasabi kang hindi maganda. So, as a teacher, you have to be careful and make sure that your assessment practice must be sensitive and constructive so that we can avoid giving them an emotional impact. Next is inspire your student to have mastery focus rather than performance focus. So, set their hearts in the lesson mastery for the love of learning rather than scores, grades, and performance. If they fail to get items in a test, tell them not to worry and assure them that they will be taught again until mastery. So dito, bilang isang guro, kailangan mo munang i-focus yung student mo sa lesson para matuto sila. So kung nakakuha man ng mababang scores or grades yung students mo, you have to inspire them. Sabihan mo sila na okay lang na mababa yung nakuha nilang scores or grades. So ikaw as a teacher, you have to teach them again until they master. So by that, makabawi yung students mo at magkaroon sila ng chance na mapataas pa yung nakuha nilang grades nung nakaraan. Okay, next we have don't make the test too difficult to discourage students, nor too easy to make them complacent. So extreme easy test is not challenging, while the extreme difficult test is discouraging. So as a future teacher, kung magbibigay man tayo ng test sa mga tinuturuan nating mga bata, especially yung tinuturuan natin is grade 4. So, dapat yung test na ibibigay natin is hindi pang kinder at hindi pang grade 6. So, dapat level lang sa kung anong grade ng mga bata. It is not too easy and not too difficult. So, level lang at sakto lang sa kung anong grade level ang tinuturuan mo. Okay, lastly, we have communicate result and feedback. So, a teacher facilitates learning by providing students with important feedback on their learning areas. So, we know naman na communication is important in a classroom. So, dito as a future teacher, when we teach students a lesson, we have to make sure that our students give us a feedback from our lesson we teach to them. So, dito malalaman mo kung ano yung resulta ng itinuro mong lesson sa iyong estudyante, kung ano yung natutunan nila at kung ano yung hindi masyado nilang naiintindihan. So, by communicating, malalaman mo kung ano pa ang dapat mong ituro sa iyong estudyante para mapalawak pa ang kanilang kaalaman. So, that would be all. Thank you.